always has something designated to developing an elevator pitch. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, it's simply a summary of what a company does, and what they try to do is they try to present it as succinctly and as effectively and efficiently as possible. So you know you're on the right track, essentially, if you can tell your company story, maybe in the length of an elevator ride. That's hence the name, the elevator pitch. But there's one big problem. They don't work. Well, at least 99% of them don't. The premise of this approach is usually spot on. However, it's always in the execution where things fall off the rails. In this episode, we're going to talk about why elevator pitches fail and what you can do instead. More importantly, I want to show you something better. We call it the Story Guide One-Liner. I'm Chris Carr with Fairtech, and this is Digital Marketing Masterclass Live. Before you go any further, I do want to invite you to subscribe and to click on the notification bell. We're going to try to bring videos like this to you as often as possible. So let's dive in. So why am I so hard on elevator pitches? Well, the main reason why is because most companies, mine included, what we do is we put the best possible minds all together, all in one room to kind of build out our pitch. But rather than focusing on it being digestible, you know what we do instead is we dissect every single word to make sure it's as accurate as possible. And then eventually, we get to a spot where we can't leave good enough alone. Next, we add all the specifications about our products and services. And so what is the outcome? Well, it's probably about 3 to 5 sentences of pure technobabble, including buzzwords and complicated jargon. And it's nearly impossible to say, let alone comprehend. You see, that's why elevator pitches commonly fail. You see, people in your company spend a ton of time and energy memorizing the pitch, but it's so complicated and it's so incredibly awkward that they usually only memorize about 80% of it. My bigger concern is not that your team memorized an elevator pitch that's super clunky and undigestible. I'm more concerned with the other 20% that blurts out a message that lacks the consistency that we originally approved. If one person does that, it might not be so bad. But you know what? When your whole sales team is doing this and they're saying things in their own way, in their own fashion, that's a big, big problem. Donald Miller, who basically is the inventor of this one-liner principle, he talks about this at length. What he does is he talks about this really cool story about branding a cow. You see, when you put a brand on a cow, the first one is readable. But if you were to go and put another brand and another brand and another brand on top, eventually you just don't know whose cow it is. And you know what? That's the exact thing your salespeople are doing with your brand when they use ineffective elevator pitches. And finally, the last thing that I hate about elevator pitches, and this is commonly what happens, and this is why I know they don't work, is that you go and you memorize the elevator pitch and you present it, and then the client or the potential client says, well, what does that mean? And then you go and you speak it in English. That is just kind of this thing where it's like, you needed to do this cool marketing thing, and then you worked really hard on it, and then you memorized it, and then you blurted it out, and it doesn't do anything. And it also kind of ruins your chance to present your company and your brand effectively. So what's the alternative? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. The alternative is something we call the one-liner. And Donald Miller, again in his book, talks about it quite a bit. It's taken from taglines and one-line descriptions that writers use to sell their screenplays. And the power of the one-liner is broken down into 2 very important concepts. 1, it has to be digestible. 2, it has to be sticky. Now I want to talk about the 3 critical parts of the one-liner that make them effective. So step 1, you have to identify your customer or client's problem. Step 2, you have to explain your plan to help them. Or step 3, you have to be able to describe a successful ending to their story. So what I want to do is walk you through some successful one-liners. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about a big mistake that my company made. What I did is I read Donald Miller's book and I dove in with both feet. I learned the premise of the book, and then I also dove into the art and science of one-liners. And then what did I do? The same thing you would normally do with an elevator pitch. I put my best possible minds all in the room, all at one time to work on it. And well, I knew, again, that there would be an art and a science to this thing. We knew it had to be digestible. We knew it had to be sticky. We just couldn't help ourselves. All right? So we started out with a good concept, and then, we tried to find out, hey, how can we make it better? And then we started battling with each other. And then we just started dissecting every single word and nuance. And you know what? What resulted was a masterpiece. I mean, it was so good, in fact, we were like high-fiving each other, at least virtually, and we're congratulating ourselves, because finally we had something that spoke to the heart and the minds of the people that would buy our products and services. It was a very proud day when I got to take that one-liner and present it at my all-team meeting. And so I walked through the entire approach, the whole war room session, how we got from here to there. And as I read the one-liner to my entire staff, it was amazing. They had like tears running down their face. They were so inspired, except for none of that really happened. In fact, it flopped miserably. You see, what actually happened is that even as I was reading it, I realized again that it was a super chalky, messy, markety, just piece of crap. And so now I was pissed. So I went back to the drawing board. But before I went back to the drawing board, I came up with the idea, or at least the pro tip in my mind. And here's what I kind of learned is it's really important that you don't fall in love with the sound of your own voice. In fact, it's essential to create the one-liner and then test it like crazy. Test it with people in your office, test it with people who know your company's story and know about your products and services, even test it with strangers. All right, so feedback and patience is key. Test, test, test. Don't be prideful. Just get it right. So what I want to do now is walk through some of the successful one-liners that we did. Then I'm going to show you where we messed up, and then I'm going to show you ultimately the one-liner that we came up with. And if you want, you can butcher it or laugh at it or do whatever, but we value your feedback. All right, so let's walk through these one-liners. Here's Donald Miller's. Most businesses struggle to talk about what they offer. We make a process that helps them clarify their message so that their companies start growing again. So now, did you hear the 3 parts? Step 1, he identified the customer's problem. Step 2, he explained the plan to help them. And then step 3, he described a successful ending to their story. Let's do a few more. Pet store. Pet owners are concerned about what food their pets are really eating. So we source our food from trusted local vendors, which ensures your pet stays happy and healthy. Financial advisor. Most people can't get their heads around their financial future. So we created a financial map that puts all of your info on a weekly dashboard, giving you peace of mind about your finances. Used car sales. Nobody likes to haggle with a car salesman, so we removed the salesman entirely. So now you can choose and test drive a car hassle-free, so you have a peaceful experience getting the car that you want. Okay, so I've gone through 3 different one-liners. Do you see how all this is coming together? Let me read you the one that we flopped on, and then I'll tell you sort of why it flopped, and then I'll read through the one-liner that we did choose and why I like it. So here was our one-liner. Most companies can't clearly achieve ROI on their marketing, nor do they have the time to do it effectively. Faratech provides the strategy and execution to not only track marketing spend, but to identify the most effective channels so you can make data-driven decisions to scale your business with command and clarity. So let me tell you why it flopped. Well, the first thing is that, I think it actually got a little bit confusing. It was really long-winded. Certain areas were pretty clunky. We started to figure out, hey, are people going to know what marketing channels are? And are there other marketing ease words in here that are just not needed? All right. And, what I was really trying to fight against is potential clients after I say this entire pitch where they're just going to say, okay, so what do you really do? So here is the revised version. I'm going to walk through it step by step. Step 1, we had to identify the customer or client's problem. So here's what we came up with. Most companies struggle to prove ROI on their marketing because they don't have the time or the expertise. That's very true. We speak with a lot of clients, and what happens is that, they have really big visions, but marketing is moving so fast, and they just simply don't either have the time to get it all done, or sometimes it's moving so fast and they don't know all the tactics that are needed, so it's possible they don't have the expertise. So we're going to come in and we're going to fix the time problem, and we're going to fix the expertise problem. Number 2, we have to explain your plan to help them. So what we came up with, our system ensures our clients make data-driven decisions. And so that's also true. And what I mean by that is that there's so many clients out there that essentially they put all this time, energy, and money into their marketing, and they might even connect analytics, but they never use that analytics to make decisions that are actionable, to make the pivots that are necessary. And what they do is they kind of live off of hunches and other ideas that they come up with along the way. And while those ideas are good, they're not using the numbers to tell the story. And then finally, number 3, describe a successful ending to your story. So we came up with, while we provide the strategy and execution to grow their business. So essentially what I'm saying is we're sort of a done-for-you service. We're going to give you this strategy based upon 21 years of implementing our unique process. And then the execution is we're not just this company that expresses theory and says, you go off and do it. We actually get the work done, okay? And obviously to grow your business. So here it is all together. Most companies struggle to prove ROI on their marketing because they don't have either the time or the expertise. Our system ensures our clients make data-driven decisions while we provide the strategy and execution to grow their business. So what do you think? Could it be slicker? Probably. Actually, probably absolutely. But you know what? Just because I could doesn't mean that I should. And so I like it the way it's at because it's very digestible and it's very clear. So I'm going to push it back on you. What do you guys think? If you like it or you think you can improve it, please leave it, your comments in the comments forms below, or you can even shoot me an email at info@fairtech.com. We would love to hear from you. So now you have your one-liner. What do you do with it? Well, after you've spent the time and energy testing it, because remember before, you have to test it, you want to go back and you want to train your staff so that they know it ice cold. Next, you want to put it front and center on your website, your marketing collateral, and even things like your email signature. And then finally, you got to find ways to say it as often as possible. Now, we're going to throw it back at you one more time. Have you done these exercises in the past? Have you heard about the one-liner before? If you have, I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. So what did we learn today? Well, we learned that 99% of the time, elevator pitches are ineffective. We also learned how to replace the elevator pitch with something we call the story guide one-liner. We learned the 3 critical steps of the one-liner. And finally, once we developed that one-liner and it's complete, we learned how to effectively implement it into our marketing. So that's today's show. I hope you learned something. It's our goal to bring as much value as possible. We try to do this every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday around 2 o'clock. We'd love for you to like this video and subscribe. We want to try to bring videos like this to you as often as possible. I also need to plug our newly formed Facebook group, the CMO Marketing Roundtable. This Facebook group was designed so CMOs could come together and share ideas. They can share what calls to actions they like. Sometimes what you'll do is that we have clients that come in and they A/B test their calls to action and they say, which ones do you like better? Which graphics do you like better? What ebook covers do you like better? And then they also share, podcast guest opportunities as well. All right, so please join that group. It's newly formed, doesn't have a lot of members yet, but we're going to try to actively grow it. Finally, I'd like to share something that we believe is really cool. So over the last 21 years, my team and I have worked really, really hard on something we call the Fairtech Unique Process. Essentially what it does is it helps organizations like you develop a systematic approach to generate leads, nurture leads into clients, and convert clients into raving fans of your brand, products, and services. All right. If you'd like to see it, we've put it all together in one place at fairtechuniqueprocess.com. So I hope you enjoyed today's show, and we'll see you again sometime.